Hola hermanos y hermanas, we are in Bucharest and we are inside of the headquarters of Sloane Coffee Roaster. I'm here with Theodora, the owner of Sloane Coffee Roaster, specialty coffee in Bucharest. So Theodora, how are you doing?
I'm good. Nice having you here in Bucharest for the first time.
Thanks a lot. So we really wanted to pass by because your brand is going super good and we are very curious to know a bit more about your history and as well the history of the brand. So first of all, how did you start in coffee and what were you doing before Sloane?
Before Sloane, I was in coffee still, so my story in coffee is a bit older than Sloane, but not much. Before having Sloane, I had a specialty coffee shop. And before that, before being in coffee, in specialty coffee involved at all, I was doing PR, that's what I studied, communications and PR, and events production. So I was also working in organizing music events. So that's my background, let's say. So it has nothing to do with coffee. I never really thought I'm ever going to do coffee. I didn't even know that was an option. And I was actually not a coffee drinker before specialty coffee. So I was tea drinker mostly because for me, coffee was not tasting good. And then I had a friend come back from the UK where he was working as a barista for, I think, 8 years already at the moment. And he wanted to come back to Romania and move back to Romania. So we started together a coffee shop, a specialty coffee shop, one of the first in Romania. That was, I think, 10 years ago. And we did that for 2 years. And then we also started together Sloane, the roastery. And after very shortly after we started this project, we decided to go separate ways. And he still has the coffee shop. And he's doing a very interesting, very pushing boundaries type of extractions and selection in his coffee shop. And I'm I've been stuck with the roastery and developing the roastery since then.
So when you started everything, you were roasting?
When we started everything, I didn't know anything about coffee. I started more, in the very beginning, I was more of an investor and then took over the management part and started learning just by being surrounded by coffee, learning coffee. And I went to specialty coffee events. I think the first one was London Coffee Festival. And that's when I realized I really like the coffee scene and I like the people around it and I like the connections it brings me to people from around the world. And that's when I realized I want to do this and not do anything else. So I stopped what I was doing besides coffee and focused on this. And when we started the roastery, I started learning more. So I did some classes. I got my Q grading exam. I started also roasting. So it was a very gradual progress that got me to become passionate about coffee. So I didn't start the other way around of like being super passionate about coffee, but more getting to fall in love with coffee and getting passionate about it.
Very inspiring. Okay, so right now, Sloane, where is Sloane located in the big scenario of Romania? Since the specialty, from what I understand, the specialty coffee is moving very fast and many competitors as well. So, in all this big scenario, where your brand is located?
I mean, to pinpoint it, I don't know. I think that's a lot of looking at it from the perspective of the consumer. So I can only tell you what we're trying to do, not necessarily how people perceive us. But we are one of the first roasteries here in Romania as a whole. I think we're one of the first 5 roasteries, specialty roasteries.
You mean in terms of quantities?
In terms of history, let's say.
Okay.
Quantities, I think it's a lot about the business model in terms of quantities. There are, if you're focused more on serving like the big market, serving the Horeca industry as a whole, you get to do bigger volumes and you focus more about consistency and reputability and good prices. What we do is more at the other end, which is more focusing on very high quality and finding really interesting lots and a good balance between quality and price. But always we're willing to go to get some coffees that are maybe not economically wise, let's say, and maybe sometimes we get lots that are not. It's going to be impossible for us to get it next year. But we want to offer to the customer the experience of being able to try everything. So I think what Sloane is in the market is this place of exploration and knowledge about coffee and trying to always learn more and be curious. And I think that's like the ethos of our brand and how people resonate to us. Being coffee shops who just want to always offer new things and explore new things, or the consumers back home.
Okay, very interesting, and also the part of never giving the same product every year, but always changing and finding new clients or people that are interested and curious about these innovations. And one thing that I was impressed while we were drinking the coffee, that you had the chance when you enter in the Sloane coffee roaster, in a coffee shop, you can have the chance to have all the coffees that are available to be served in espresso, in filter, in all the methods. So can you explain me a bit how this idea was born and actually how do you manage? Because I imagine roasting under the roasting aspect is not that easy.
I mean, it's not easy in any aspects to do this. The idea started because so when we separated and I went with the roastery, I didn't want to have the coffee shop, a coffee shop at all for a while, because it's a very, and especially if you want to do quality and really good service in a coffee shop, it's very hard to do it. So I didn't want to have a coffee shop for a while. But at some point it became obvious we have to, because people would come to the roastery, they wanted to see the process. That's why we have a coffee shop here at the roastery, because people are very curious about this. And when it became obvious we need a place of our own, I stopped myself and I asked myself, what would a place of our own look like? Because I didn't want to put a coffee shop that would just be a competitor for other coffee shops in the city that we provide coffee with. And I realized that the only thing that really is missing for us is a place to have all the coffee shops, because any other coffee shops we work with would have 3, 4, 5 of our coffees, but you couldn't go anywhere to try any of our coffees. So that was the idea, to have a place. The coffee shops would be like a presentation space for the roastery, so you would be able to go and buy any of our coffees and also try and drink any of our coffees. So we started with that concept from the beginning, and then we came to the part of, okay, how do we practically do this?
Exactly.
So the way we do it is by monodosing. So we have all the coffees scaled. So we have doses in which we keep 20 grams of all the coffees at the same time. And we use a single dosing grinder. We use the AK43 for now. I wish we just, it's a good grinder, but it's not the best. I really hope that at some point we're gonna be able to have a good grinder that does really well at grinding, but also at workflow in a coffee shop. But for now we use AK43 for that. And the way it works is just you come, maybe you know what you want to drink, maybe you're curious about something, or the barista can help you and guide you and tell you, okay, do you want a chocolatey coffee or do you want a floral coffee, and guide you to a specific coffee that would probably suit your taste, and then brew it like anything. So that's also a thing that you could drink it as filter or espresso or even with milk. There are roasteries and coffee shops, who say that this is for espresso or this is for filter or this.
Exactly.
You would never, like pay 15 euros for a super delicate geisha and put milk in it. And for us, it's not about that. Like, we want to let people experiment different things, because I think it's something that people do anyway in their own home. Like, if they buy a bag of coffee, maybe some of them would just drink it with milk no matter what, even if it's like a super interesting
That's
geisha.
really super interesting, super interesting. And it's like going into a wine shop and you can open all the bottles,
Yeah.
no matter what the price. Then super interesting. And but about like the how, so you don't adapt the roasting to a method, but you do like your type of roasting,
Yeah, yeah.
and then this can work only for all the
Yes,
all the
that's
methods.
it's called omni roast usually, and the idea is that we try to roast the coffees to the point where we consider they're well balanced and well developed, and all the flavors, of course, are shining through. And from that point on, we think that the extraction is what has to adapt to the coffee, not necessarily the roasting. We have, I think, at the moment, two coffees that we specifically roast for espresso and we recommend for espresso. But I think that's more, it's not so much about the roasting style as it is about the coffee itself. Like, they're coffees that are very like heavy body, low acidity. They really shine in espresso, and in filter, they're just a bit underwhelming. So that's why we don't, but it's not about the roasting profile necessarily.
Okay. Let's try to change topic a bit and see more in the supply chain overall. So, what do you think about direct sourcing? And do you see this more as a marketing approach for some roasters, or really could be a model, a business model that could be followed in the following years from a roaster point of view?
I think it's not a marketing scheme. I don't think anyone, mostly people that are involved in specialty, they really have good intentions. And I think it's a goal that most roasteries have. But if you're a smaller roastery, it's hard to really have a direct trade, because to be able to have a direct trade and make an impact for the producer, you really need to talk quantities. You cannot say, okay, we're doing direct trade, but I can only buy from you like 5 bags. That's, you need to be able to discuss about offering them consistency and volumes and being able to buy, I don't know, a container, half a container. That's where you can really talk about direct trade. And I think it's super important to have that. And I think all roasters really want to get to that point, and there are roasteries who do that and they do a great job. But if you're a smaller roastery, you need a middleman, let's call it, what green traders are, which I think they're not only necessary because they're good at dealing with the import paperwork and everything you need to do, especially if you're working like we are with like 10 origin countries at the moment. It's very complicated to deal with all of that. So that's great to have someone in between that does that for you. And also, they're good at having, like, mediating this conversation between the producer. So for us, I think we are not doing specifically direct trade, maybe with two producers, because we're discussing directly with the producers and they are sending the coffee directly to us. But besides that, we are in contact with the producers, but always getting the coffee through a green trader.
Okay.
I don't know if that's not direct sourcing. It's a different way of, I think it's lying, let's say, if you say, okay, we get it directly from the producer, and you're not doing that. But saying that you're getting from the producer while you have a relationship with the producer, but someone helps you along the way, it's not direct trade. I don't know how you would
No, for sure,
call
it's showing traceability and
Yeah.
Be clear and transparent with the consumer.
Yeah, you could have, if you have a conversation with the producer and you're able at least to also give feedback back to him, I think that's very useful, and I think that's what the relationship is. For them, it's important to know where the coffee ended and the price, to be aware of the price, and also have feedback from us. They love it when we are able to give them some feedback.
And okay, so staying in the topic of supply chain, where do you see lack and opportunities in the coffee industry, since it's really a sector that has many external factors that affect also the prices, but also all the logistically aspect. So where do you see some opportunities and lacks that there are, and how can be fixed?
Okay, this is a very heavy topic. Um, I think it's developed a lot in the past years and took advantage of these opportunities. I feel that um, from the past 10 years when I started to this moment, there are way more producers representing themselves. That happens more in specific countries, let's say in Colombia and usually like South America. But there are countries in Africa that are starting to take measures to be able to open up and have that also. So I think this is it's also happening because of internet and access to ways of communicating directly with the producers and the traders. And I think this is an opportunity, the fact that we can discuss directly with the producers and they can tell us in their own terms what are the problems that they're facing and what do they need and how we can help them. So I think listening more to producers and what they need and want from us is an opportunity. And the challenges are, reconciliating how the specialty coffee and coffee scene as a whole has grown, which is a specific model where the value is mostly held here at the producing part, and trying to do that while maintaining a business, because this is a business, but also increasing the value that stays at the origin. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's a challenge because it needs to give somewhere. It's either gonna give at our end and reduce our margin completely, which means I don't know if the businesses will sustain, or it needs to hit the consumer, which will have to pay much more for the coffee.
Nice, interesting. It's important from us understanding as well the point of view from roasters to improve things. And as we are the middleman, as you were saying, so Malaterra Green Coffee Importers, we had a chance to daily speak with cooperatives, exporters, producers. So thank you very much. And talking about challenges, I know that you compete to many championships, competitions. So, and actually you are preparing yourself for the next one, which is a brewing competition. Can you please explain us, first of all, the role of this competition in the specialty coffee sector? Why are they still important? And how do you prepare for example, for this one?
Okay, I'm not competing that much actually, and it took me a long time to start competing because coming from like outside of, as I told you, outside of the coffee scene in the beginning, it took me a long time to build trust in myself that I should be there in the competition scene, because I always regarded it as a very prestigious stage to be on. So I just started competing more and more, but I think it's very important that they exist as competitions, because, and the reason, it's also part of the reason why I decided to compete. It's one thing, it makes you paying more attention to very specific aspects of preparing coffee, serving coffee. It makes you pay attention to your workflow. It makes you pay attention to the customer experience and how you talk to them. And then every little aspect, like how you choose the coffee, what grinder you select, what water you select. So it also keeps you at the forefront of what's new, what's the new development. And I think this is what competitions do best, is just create an environment for innovation to appear, or if not innovation, just cooperation and exchange of ideas. And usually what shows up in competitions will the next year, in the few years, come back into the industry as a whole. So you wouldn't even, if you're not connected to this part, you wouldn't even know why a specific thing started to happen.
So it's like a trend anticipation of the next trend that are coming.
Yes, kind of. Not even the anticipation. It's almost like creating the next trend and diffusing the next trend. Like the AK-43 I was telling you about. It first was used in a barista competition many years ago. I think it was 2013, and it because it was used in a world stage. And I think now, at the moment, what I think it's very interesting is the playing with minerals in the water. Okay. There's many new innovative ways of creating a better cup just by playing with the composition of the water, which is not yet that well replicated in the coffee shops, but I think it's gonna take out even more.
It's very interesting because I was talking last week with the manager of Spain for BWA, and they were saying really how right now they are differentiating type of water minerals according to a certain origin or a certain type of extraction that they need to select. So really interesting. Theodora, one last question. If you can tell us one person that inspired you the most in the coffee industry.
The most? It would be hard to just pick one, but there are many people who inspired me in different ways. Let me see. Who inspired me the most? I think recently, I would go from like very recently to maybe a bit further down the road. I recently went to Copenhagen to a talk of Nick maybe from London, and he's working with a lot of people from Brazil with the research institute from there, and they're trying to develop the Robusta sector more and really have an impact in the origin. And I think that really impressed me and inspired me to really move a bit the focus from the consuming part to the producing part, and more to the impacts that our decisions have on the lives and the environment also. Yes, and that's, I think, him, but also the people that he's involved with. That would be someone that inspired me recently. But along the way, there's many people who, if you're looking at competing, there's so many people that I admire. Every time I look at the competitions, I feel very inspired by those people, because every time you look at it from outside, you think, it's not that complicated. It's just brewing some coffees in 10 minutes. Like, I do that all the time. And then you look at it in specific parts, and you realize it's super hard. And those people are like super good at it and super inspiring. Yes.
Okay. So great, Theodora. Thanks a lot for your time and for hosting us here in Sloane Coffee. We understood a lot, and for sure, I suggest to come as Sloane Coffee, understand their way and concept of brewing and serving the coffees. Thanks a lot. And
Thank
have
you
a
so
good
much.
One. Ciao, Theodora.
See you soon. Bye.